friends, I'm Abigail.
And I'm Cassidy, and this is 10 to Thrive.
We're here to talk through all the seasons of life.
From the messy and mundane to the meaningful, where God meets us where we are.
We're all about applying God's Word to real life and growing as women of God together.
Let's thrive in His goodness for His glory.
Hi, it is great to have you back with us, and it's great to have both of us. Cassidy has really been pulling a lot of the weight doing some single episodes, which I super appreciate. And today you're going to be kicking us off, Cassidy, talking about how celebration is the antidote to this desire for control, which is kind of a crazy concept. It's something that we don't really see going together. So explain this a little bit.
So I realized the other week that hearing other people struggle with wanting to be in control, that I'm not the only one that is struggling with this. And I was like, okay, so we want to be in control, and you might be tempted to tell yourself, well, you just have to cut it out. Like, just stop being in control or wanting to hold the reins and want to drive your life. But that's really not successful, I don't think. So I had heard of this book when I was listening to a podcast, and the book is called What If It's Wonderful? I forget the author's name. It's written in here somewhere. It'll be in the show notes. And she took it in such a direction that I had never thought of before, and I was so intrigued. And I want to share the things that stuck out to me.
Yeah, please do.
And so we're going to dig into that. But yeah, I personally struggle with wishing to control the outcomes, circumstances, and wanting to know my schedule. If someone messes up my schedule, I feel really super irritated. And even it comes down to wanting your family to be safe, like at all times. Like you wish you could control the cars on the road or like just things like that. So I had 3 examples that came to my mind, honestly, way too fast. Yeah. And this is just like 3 small things in my life, and maybe you resonate with it and it helps you dig into what we're talking about today. So have you ever been afraid to hold on to hope or onto something good for the fear that it wouldn't work out, and in the end you might just end up being like disappointed?
Yeah.
Like for example,
I'm just going to have no expectations so that I never get disappointed.
Yeah. So this is kind of going on with, we're waiting to confirm land that we're trying to buy. And it's so easy to be like, well, I'm just not going to get my hopes up because whatever. And we know that God is going to provide for us in the end, one way or the other. And so feel free to celebrate that, yes, He is doing the work. This has often happened in the past few years when I would go on dates with my husband. It was like quiet. You're enjoying this like wonderful time of just the two of you, and you start like savoring it, and then all of a sudden the lie sneaks in from the enemy, like what if it was all taken away? Right. So all of this sudden, like in this moment that should have been filled with joy, it's like completely stolen away from me because I'm worried. I'm trying to be in control of, well, if I could just hold on to the reins and control the situation and make it go the way that I want it to go, then I could have joy. Or then fill in the blank. But my joy was completely stolen from me because I was too afraid to celebrate in the moment. But yeah, I'm going to walk you through this book, What If It's Wonderful, by Nicole Zasowski. I immediately knew I wanted to have this truth in my mind about the struggle of being confident to hold on to good things. So I'm going to share that overview with you guys today. In her book, she does talk through her struggles through infertility, and if that is a tender spot for you, I just want to give you a warning before you head into the book. But she is a family therapist, or like she has lots of training in the therapy world. And so she actually put a label to what this, I'm going to describe it for you. It's called catastrophizing. So you're trying to think of all of the bad things to keep the pain from hurting if the worst thing happens. So this is an actual study that is showing that even if you prepare for every bad thing that might potentially happen, it doesn't actually keep, if the worst thing happens, which it rarely does, but if the worst thing happens, you're still affected with the same amount of pain that you would have been. It doesn't do anything. Points to in the Bible, like, don't have anxiety for tomorrow. Like, it it's not going to do anything for you. Like, even tells us that in God's word.
I mean, this isn't a biblical example, but Trevor and I just recently watched the second Inside Out movie.
Yes.
And I have to give the creators credit because they did a really good job with that movie and going through all the different emotions and how different aspects of us try to control things. And in the second Inside Out movie, it talks about anxiety and how she does this. She tries to control absolutely everything and what the possible outcome could be. But at the end of the day, it still is going to happen, and we've only caused more harm for ourselves. So again, that's not a biblical example, but that is realistic, and we certainly do that in and of ourselves.
Yeah, so it's like counting the cost. Like, is it going to be worth it if we allow this to overtake our lives in that way? And it's just, it's not worth it. Like, there's too great a cost to just really let joy be tossed to the side, and you're missing out on so much. So as we're looking into wanting to be in control, what's something that we can do to kind of get out of this hole? I'm going to take you through 8 different things that she talks about in the book to being able to celebrate what's in front of us right now. That doesn't mean that it has to be good things. Like, she had many examples of she had lots of bad things in front of her, and she was learning to find joy and celebrate despite there being trials in her life. So, number 1, I wanted to point out that celebration and delight just simply isn't a big enough practice for us. What if I viewed Jesus more with the image of him laughing and breaking bread with his disciples? And when she pointed that out, we really do view Jesus as like someone very serious. Like, it's really intense. And so she was like, think about him laughing and having joy with his disciples, eating with them, like having a fun time. And I was like, is that wrong? Like, why am I so hesitant to have joy and celebrate in Christianity? Like, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts as to like, why are we so like not, and right word isn't coming to my mind, but like, why do we not
have that joy? Yeah, I do think that some of it may stem from church traditions, and different denominations have really focused on holiness and this set apart and the seriousness, and which is wonderful. We serve a sovereign and a holy God, and so when we come before him, we should come, with the right mind. But I do think that sometimes as humans, we're not able to comprehend the fullness of God, and so we just focus on one attribute, and that is how we then look at it. And I think we do the same thing with Jesus. We see him as this gentle, strong, merciful individual, and we forget that these followers loved him. They took pleasure in being with him, and I think that a big part of it is they enjoyed him. And God is the creator of sense of humor. And so Jesus would have had the purest, most undefiled, wonderful sense of humor. And I think that unfortunately we do kind of overlook that just in our inability to grasp all of God's fullness.
She had pointed out that they were in a meeting of growing in their therapy practice and whatnot, and it was a Christian practice. And she pointed out that there was this one fellow who was a little bit older, and she had expressed a prayer request, and he was loud and celebrated, like right there and holding on to her hope in this prayer request, whatever. And everyone kind of like looked at him, was like, that was like really loud. But like everything, like she was pointing out, she's like, but what's wrong with being like, obviously if it's out of place and whatnot, there's a time and a place that this shouldn't
there's appropriate behavior.
Right. But it was totally like appropriate in the time, and people were like feeling uncomfortable. And she was like, maybe we should try to embrace more of being a little bit louder. Like, and being willing to celebrate with someone when they're sharing, or like, have exuberance, like pouring out of it. Like, we have Christ, we have everything, we have like so much, like
using
it pour out.
Using our emotions in the right way, allowing that joy to flow out. And I mean, when was the last time that we danced in celebration of the Lord? We look at David, and I mean, we can look through scripture and see that. And for me personally, I know like, oh, well, that's not a part of my like worship culture. That's not the way that I was raised. But we see these clear examples. And so it does, why are we not using this joy and this demonstration of love for the Lord?
Right. And maybe dancing isn't appropriate for in a church service.
Sure.
But in a different part of our worship is not just for church. It's for every day. So I'm going to go to point number 2 here, recognizing that negativity sticks on our brains more than the truth. And this she also pointed back to a scientific fact. And I love how science and God is like, it's together, it's not split apart.
Right. He is the great scientist.
And so she was pointing out that pessimism decreases our delight in God's good gifts. And it's a form of trying to control. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So she was pointing out that speaking the truth out loud is going to help the negativity take a back seat. Because I have noticed that, yes, negativity of your experiences sticks louder than truth or the good things that happened in that experience. And so she's like, you're going to have to train your brain to look for the good things, to look for the truth. And if you're having trouble holding on to the truth, it's doing actions, physical actions to help it stick. So yes, saying things out loud. She gave a couple different examples of if you're feeling fearful or not confident or just trying to hold on to things with tight fists. She's like, if you're praying to the Lord out loud, literally opening your hands and like showing a physical action helps the brain connect to what you're trying to do. So like opening your hands or planting your feet firmly on the ground and just coming with confidence and openness to God. And I was like, that's something, again, that in my Christian life, I'm too afraid to show a physical action of my worship. Number 3, here's, I need to stop needing to know the plan before I can trust in his promises. So she's calling us to have an expectant heart and embrace the good gifts. She mentions that taking action to physically do something different, and that's kind of what I just dug into there. Number 4, don't skip the thankfulness. How often do we celebrate without thankfulness for our God who caused this to be exactly how it panned out in front of us? And so outwardly displaying our thanksgiving, displaying the gratitude that we do feel. And Thanksgiving is a way to connect with him in our joy, knowing that the gifts come not from ourselves. It's like bonding with the one who is the source of joy. And she connected this idea with the story of 10 lepers that came to Jesus. And this was an unlikely group because there's one Samaritan that was in the group. But these 10 lepers came to Jesus and asked for healing, and he did. He said, go to the priest. But only 1 out of the 10 turned around and thanked Jesus for this healing. Number 5 here, learning to trust him. God is who he says he is and will do immeasurably more than I can ask or imagine. And the cross is proof of that. And so knowing that if Jesus can come down, take away my sin, do this greatest act of good for me, there's nothing in it for him. Like he's literally coming to do this for me. If he has done this greatest act, how much more will he take care of us in the here and the now? So learning to lay down the control, seeing that, like, yes, he is so, so good to us. Number 6, hunt for the goodness. Even in challenging seasons, we get to choose to find the joy, to notice the beauty, to celebrate what we see. Celebration looks at a broken world and recognizes that while we are not in control, there are action and things that we can take, choices we can make to acknowledge God's goodness, to practice celebration, and participate in the hope. She pointed out from Ecclesiastes chapter 2, there's a difference between pleasure seeking and real joy. Ecclesiastes takes you into like vanity of vanities, everything is vanity. And so it's like things that last, things that don't last. So looking for proper, real joy, things that are going to last.
Right.
Number 7 is don't forget that it's okay to have fun. And I loved this, where she dug into the book that God created fun. It's not something frivolous, and we were kind of chatting about this a little bit earlier, but God takes pleasure in our pleasure. So fun, and she talks about like not just being like sin for fun, like, using proper fun, is a way to intentionally connect with God and the people that he has placed beside us. So practicing celebration even when we haven't been given a reason to do so. Someone in the book, she told a story about how this woman had a mom who was grieving a terminal illness. And she reached out to her and was like, is it okay for me to have fun and celebrate with her? Like, I feel like this is so wrong. We're sitting here playing games together and we're laughing and it feels wrong. Like, is this wrong? Like, shouldn't I be in grief and sadness? Like, why am I happy?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, like, this is good. Like, you can still celebrate and have overflowing joy and fun with someone, even in the grief and even in the sadness. Like, that's okay to embrace being okay when you don't feel okay. And I thought that was super important. So delighting in God is time well spent. Are we putting like it as a priority? Like, it's okay to delight in God? Or are we like, that's a waste? All right, to my final point here. Sometimes the process is the point, was a quote that she had at the beginning of this particular chapter. But believing that God is eager to hear my dreams and keeping my gaze fixed forward with an expectant heart. So share with Jesus our delight we find in our world. Celebration is at the center of God's character. We deprive ourselves of joy when we are hesitant to trust that celebration is essential to God's character. And that made me pause when I was listening to the book, and I'm like, what does she mean? Like, that celebration is at the center of God's character. And I think I could probably spend a couple more hours thinking through that particularly. But it's a very interesting proposition that she brings to us, that celebration is at the center of God's character. And she did to kind of point out a little bit of what does that mean. In the Old Testament, we often see feasts and celebrations and people coming before him in celebration. And like, he asked them to do these things. Like, he said, this is how it's going to be, and laid out an example of how they should have these feasts. And I do think that it's at the center of his character. It's who he is.
Right. Well, and I mean, even looking at the way that he created us, he gave us these senses, the sense of touch, smell, taste, vision. And there's a reason for it. And I think that oftentimes we forget about God when we look at ourselves, and we forget about God when we even look at his creation. The fact that, okay, yes, he gave us the sense of smell, maybe to help us smell a fire, or to protect ourselves, or to know if the child needs their diaper change, whatever it is. But when you really get into it, God gave us our senses so that we could experience him. And we oftentimes get this utilitarian view of our senses, but he gave them so that we could deeper experience who he is. Like you said, the feast. God wants us to experience him in the fullest measure. He wants us to taste his goodness. He wants us to hear what he's done. He wants us to sing his praises and to use every aspect of our being. And oftentimes we miss that. Yeah,
I love how you added that senses as part of this. That was so good. And this is why we love having Abigail join in with our conversations. Just like bringing a whole different point of view. It's great. He longs for us to delight in him, with him. So don't settle for just knowing about God, but enjoying a relationship with him. We can be secure in his sovereignty, so nothing is happening outside of his awareness. Like, it's okay to release our tight fists of control. So maybe fear has governed you for years. What if I'm foolish to hold on to hope? What if I embrace celebration only to have joy ripped from my hands again? You are celebrated by God. You are invited to release your fears and choose joy, to find the courage to celebrate. And that's what I have for you guys today. So I want to encourage you to go find the book. It's on Spotify Premium. You can listen to it for free there. Otherwise, it's in Amazon and all of where you find books, But what if it's wonderful? And it's just such a good reminder for my heart.
Yeah, this is a great book review. It's like a book club. I feel like
I'm giving you a book report.
you have so many really good resources that now I'm like, oh man, I have a really big reading list thanks to you, Cassidy.
Let's go. The song of the week that I have for you guys, and I thought this was such a cute song. I could listen to it on repeat. It's just, I don't know, if you could put a song in my personality, I think this one might be it. It's called Joy. That's what it's called, just Joy, by Simply Worship, and it's a cute little song. So that'll be on our playlist. If you go to Instagram, in our bio, you'll find a link to our playlist, and you can go check out all of the songs that relate to our episodes. I think that's so fun. Like, we try to find songs that relate to what we're talking about, but to have joy. Like, we're talking about digging into joy, and that's what we got.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cassidy, and thank you for joining us.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.